Aunt Maggie, my blood sugar is 487. She says I'm lying and took my insulin away. I feel really weird. Please help. The text came through at 11:43 on a Tuesday morning, sent from Tyler's school iPad. The message included a photo of his glucose meter, the numbers glowing red against the small screen. My hands started shaking before I even finished reading. Then I saw the next message. Dad won't answer his phone. I'm scared. The timestamp showed he'd sent it 3 minutes ago. I grabbed my keys and my phone and I was out the door. Tyler was at Meadowbrook Elementary, 20 minutes away if I drove fast. I tried calling my nephew Brandon as I backed out of the driveway. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. Then I called the school. This is Margaret Chen. My great-nephew Tyler Morrison is in 4th grade there. He has type 1 diabetes, and I just received a message that his blood sugar is critically high. I need you to check on him immediately. The secretary put me on hold. I was already on the highway, going 15 over the limit. A minute later, a man's voice came on. This is Principal Hayes. Tyler's in the nurse's office now. His teacher noticed he seemed confused during math. Can you get here? I'm 20 minutes out. Has anyone given him insulin? We're not authorized to administer medication without parental consent. His father hasn't answered our calls. Then call 911. That's a medical emergency. We have. Ambulance is on the way. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I hung up and pressed harder on the gas. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 70 years old, a retired ICU nurse, and Tyler's great-aunt. What I found when I got to that school would start a battle I never expected to fight. And what came after would test everything I thought I knew about family. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Never Too Late. We're creating a community of people who know that life's most important battles can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. I need to go back 6 months to explain how we got here. Tyler is my nephew Brandon's son from his first marriage. His mother, Emily, died in a car accident when Tyler was 5. Brandon was devastated. We all were. Emily had been good for him, kept him grounded. After she died, Brandon drifted, started drinking more, working less, couldn't handle being alone with his grief, and a kindergartner who looked just like his dead wife. That's when he met Crystal at some wellness expo. She was younger, pretty, taught yoga and sold essential oils. She talked about positive energy and natural healing, and Brandon ate it up. Told me she was helping him find peace. They got married 6 months after Emily died. I had concerns, but I kept them to myself. Brandon was an adult. Tyler needed stability. Maybe Crystal would provide that. The first warning sign came at Thanksgiving dinner that year. Tyler was 6, newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. The doctor had spent an hour teaching Brandon and Crystal how to test blood sugar, count carbs, administer insulin. Standard protocol for newly diagnosed kids. Crystal sat through that appointment with her arms crossed. At Thanksgiving, I watched her put a huge slice of pecan pie in front of Tyler. Brandon, that's too much sugar for him, I said. He needs insulin first. Crystal smiled at me, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Tyler's body can heal itself if we let it, Margaret. All these chemicals they want to pump into him just mask the real problem. It's not chemicals. It's insulin. He'll die without it. She doesn't produce it naturally anymore. That's what they want you to believe. She turned to Tyler. You're not sick, baby. You're perfect just the way you are. Brandon sat there and said nothing. I gave Tyler the insulin myself, counting out the units while Crystal watched with disapproval. After dinner, I pulled Brandon aside. You understand how serious this is, right? Type 1 diabetes isn't something you cure with positive thinking. If he doesn't get insulin, he'll go into diabetic ketoacidosis. He could die. I know, Mom. Crystal's just adjusting. She'll come around. She needs to adjust fast. Brandon nodded, but his eyes slid away from mine. Over the next year, I saw Tyler maybe once a month. Always at my house, never theirs. Crystal had gotten pregnant, and Brandon said she needed rest, didn't want visitors. Tyler looked thinner each time I saw him. His color was off, sort of grayish. I asked Brandon about his diabetes management. He'd say everything was fine, Crystal had it under control, they were working with a naturopath. A naturopath? Brandon, he needs an endocrinologist. We're handling it. Then 3 months ago, Tyler showed up at my door on a Saturday afternoon. Alone. I lived in a quiet neighborhood in Rosewood, California. A suburb about 4 miles from Brandon's house. Too far for a 9-year-old to walk safely. Tyler, how did you get here? I rode my bike. It took me a really long time. Where's your dad? Where's Crystal? Home. They think I'm at my friend Mason's house. I invited him in and made him a snack, watching him eat the cheese and crackers like he was starving. What's going on, sweetheart? He pulled a small notebook from his backpack. The kind with a marble cover that kids use for school. This is my diabetes log. My doctor said to write down my numbers and how much insulin I take. He opened it. The pages were filled with his careful handwriting, dates and times and blood sugar readings. Some of the numbers made my stomach drop. 340, 412, 289. These are too high, Tyler. Every single one. I know. He looked down at his hands. Crystal says I don't need as much insulin as the doctor said. She says if I eat better and think positive thoughts, my pancreas will start working again. That's not how it works. I know. He met my eyes and they were older than they should be. I tried to tell Dad, but he just says Crystal knows what she's doing because she took a health coach course online. Can you keep this for me? I don't want her to find it. I took the notebook and felt its weight in my hand like a piece of evidence. Of course. And Tyler, if you ever feel really sick, if your blood sugar gets too high or too low, you call me immediately, okay? I wrote my number on the inside cover. I tried. After he left, I called Brandon. His phone went straight to voicemail. I left a message saying we needed to talk about Tyler's diabetes management, that I was concerned, that this was serious. He didn't call back. I tried Crystal's number. She answered on the 4th ring. What do you want, Margaret? I need to talk about Tyler's health. No. You need to mind your own business. Brandon and I are his parents. We make the decisions. He needs proper medical care. He's getting exactly what he needs. Natural healing, not pharmaceutical poison. Do you know how much money those drug companies make off insulin? They want us dependent. That's conspiracy theory nonsense. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. Without insulin, he'll die. Then maybe that's God's will. She hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, Tyler's notebook on the table in front of me, and tried to figure out what to do. I called Tyler's school the next Monday, asked to speak to the nurse, told her I was concerned about his diabetes management at home. She said she'd make a note and watch for signs of distress, but without evidence of active abuse, there wasn't much she could do. I called Child Protective Services and filed a report. Medical neglect of a diabetic child. They said they'd investigate. 2 weeks later, a caseworker called me back. We visited the home. The parents showed us Tyler's insulin supplies and said he's being properly cared for. The case is closed. But his blood sugar logs show. We can't force parents to manage diabetes in any particular way as long as the child isn't in immediate danger. She was polite, but firm. The system had rules. Rules that didn't protect Tyler. Until today, I pulled into the school parking lot at exactly noon. The ambulance was already there, lights flashing. I ran inside, following the signs to the nurse's office. Tyler was on a cot, an EMT taking his vitals. His eyes were half closed and he looked so small, so gray. His lips were dry and cracked. I'm his great-aunt, I told the EMT. I'm a retired nurse. What's his status? Blood sugar's at 502 now. It went up since we got here. He's showing signs of diabetic ketoacidosis, rapid breathing, confusion. We need to transport immediately. I knelt beside Tyler and took his hand. It was cold. Hey, buddy. I'm here. Aunt Maggie? His voice was thick, slurred. You came. Of course I came. These nice people are going to take you to the hospital and get you feeling better. The EMT looked at me. Are you coming with us? Yes. Where are his parents? I called them both. Tyler's father isn't answering. His stepmother said she'd meet us at the hospital. My stomach turned. At Rosewood General, they took Tyler straight back. I gave them his medical history, his doctor's name, his insurance information. The ER doctor, a woman in her 40s named Dr. Patel, ordered labs and started an IV immediately. Tyler was in and out of consciousness. His blood sugar at the hospital registered 534. Dr. Patel's face was grim. He's in diabetic ketoacidosis. Severe. His blood pH is 7.1, which is dangerously acidic. We're starting an insulin drip and fluids. How long has he been symptomatic? His blood sugars have been high for months. I pulled out Tyler's notebook from my purse. I brought his diabetes log. She read through it, her expression darkening with each page. These numbers are all critically high. Who's been managing his care? His stepmother. She believes in natural healing. Doesn't think he needs insulin. Dr. Patel looked up at me. This is medical neglect. Yes. Crystal arrived an hour later wearing workout clothes and carrying a green smoothie. She walked into Tyler's hospital room like she owned it. "What are you doing here?" she asked me. Tyler texted me. He was in crisis. Crystal waved her hand dismissively. "He's fine. He just needs to drink more water and stop eating so much sugar at school." Dr. Patel stepped between us. "Are you Tyler's mother?" "Stepmother. Crystal Morrison. I need to speak with you about Tyler's treatment. We're giving him insulin and IV fluids for diabetic ketoacidosis. I don't consent to that. Insulin is poison. It's also keeping him alive. His blood sugar was over 500. Another few hours, and he could have had a seizure, gone into a coma, or died." Crystal pulled out her phone. "I'm calling my lawyer. You can't force medical treatment on my child. He's not your child," I said. "And this isn't optional treatment. It's life-saving emergency care." Dr. Patel nodded. "We're within our legal rights to treat a minor in a life-threatening situation, regardless of parental consent. And I'm required by law to report this to Child Protective Services. You're all part of the problem." Crystal's voice rose. "You're all brainwashed by Big Pharma. Do you know what's in insulin? Do you know how much money they make off scared parents?" I stood up. "I know that Emily spent 5 years managing Tyler's diabetes properly, and he was healthy. You've had him for 18 months, and you've nearly killed him 3 times. 3 times? Dr. Patel looked at me. I pulled up my phone, showed her the records I'd been keeping. 3 ER visits in 4 months at 3 different hospitals. All for DKA. All because she won't give him insulin consistently. Dr. Patel took photos of my screen. "I'll add this to my report." Crystal left in a fury, threatening lawsuits, and calling us all murderers. Tyler stayed in the ICU for 3 days. His potassium was low, his kidney function compromised. Dr. Patel said another 6 hours without treatment, and he would have died. Brandon finally showed up on day 2. He looked terrible, hungover, wearing the same clothes he'd had on at our last family dinner. "Margaret." He couldn't meet my eyes. "Your son almost died." "I know." Crystal called me. Said the doctors were overreacting. His blood sugar was 534. His blood was literally turning acidic. He was hours from death. Brandon sat down in the chair beside Tyler's bed. "I didn't know it was that bad." "You knew. I told you months ago. Tyler told you. The school told you. You chose to believe Crystal instead. She said you were just scared of change. That natural medicine works if you give it a chance. She's not a doctor, Brandon. She took an online health coaching course. She doesn't understand how diabetes works." He put his head in his hands. "I just wanted things to be normal again. After Emily died, everything fell apart. Crystal made me feel like we could be happy again. At what cost?" He didn't answer. CPS showed up that afternoon. The social worker was a tired-looking man in his 50s named Margaret Chen. No relation. He interviewed me. Tyler. Brandon. Reviewed the medical records. Spoke to Dr. Patel. 2 days later, he called me. "Mrs. Chen, based on the evidence, we're removing Tyler from the home. Emergency protective custody. He'll need a placement. I want him. I'm his great-aunt. I'm retired, I have space. And I'm a nurse. I know how to manage his diabetes. We'll need to do a home study, but given your medical background and relation to the child, I don't see any issues. Be prepared for the parents to fight this. I'm ready. The court hearing was scheduled for the following week. I hired a lawyer, Patricia Wong, who specialized in family law. She was sharp, mid-50s, with short gray hair and no patience for nonsense. She came to my house, walked through every room, checked the smoke detectors, reviewed my finances, took notes on everything. You're in good shape, she said. Retired with a pension, house paid off, medical background. The judge will like that. What about Brandon and Crystal? Brandon's cooperating. He signed a temporary custody agreement. Crystal hired a lawyer and she's fighting. She's claiming religious freedom and parental rights. On what grounds? She says insulin goes against her beliefs in natural healing. Patricia snorted. That's not a religion. That's negligence. We'll bury her. The courtroom was small and beige, everything designed to feel calm and official at the same time. Brandon sat on one side with a public defender, looking miserable. Crystal sat on the other with a lawyer in an expensive suit, her face set in righteous anger. Tyler wasn't there. He was at my house with my neighbor Alice, eating lunch and doing homework like a normal kid. The judge was a black woman in her 60s, named Judge Harriet Barnes. She had reading glasses on a chain, and the kind of face that had seen everything twice. This is an emergency custody hearing for Tyler Morrison, age 9. Mrs. Margaret Chen is petitioning for temporary custody on grounds of medical neglect. Patricia stood. Yes, Your Honor. We have extensive evidence that Tyler's stepmother has been withholding necessary medical treatment, specifically insulin for type 1 diabetes, resulting in 3 hospitalizations and 1 near-fatal episode. Crystal's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client is exercising her parental right to choose alternative medical care for her stepson. Type 1 diabetes requires insulin to survive. Judge Barnes said it flatly. That's not alternative care. That's biology. The lawyer cleared his throat. My client believes in the body's ability to heal itself through proper nutrition and positive mindset. She's attempting to wean Tyler off pharmaceutical dependence. You can't wean off insulin for type 1 diabetes. Judge Barnes looked at him over her glasses. The pancreas doesn't produce it. This is basic medical fact. Patricia presented Tyler's diabetes log, the hospital records from 3 ER visits, Dr. Patel's testimony, my statement, the school nurse's observations. She showed bank records proving that Brandon and Crystal spent $4,000 on Crystal's health coaching certification, while Tyler's insulin prescriptions often went unfilled for weeks. She showed text messages from Crystal to her wellness group, messages like insulin is poison, trying to get Tyler off it naturally, and Big Pharma wants us dependent, but I'm breaking the cycle. Judge Barnes read everything in silence. Then she looked at Crystal. Mrs. Morrison, do you understand that type 1 diabetes is not curable? I believe that with proper support, Tyler's body can heal. That's not what I asked. Do you understand that without insulin, he will die? I believe there are alternatives that the medical establishment doesn't want us to know about. Judge Barnes took off her glasses. In my 30 years on this bench, I've seen a lot of things. Parents who hurt their children out of anger, out of addiction, out of pure cruelty. But I've also seen parents who hurt their children out of ideology, out of belief systems that prioritize their own worldview over their child's survival. That's what this is. She looked at the papers in front of her. Tyler Morrison has been hospitalized 3 times in 4 months with diabetic ketoacidosis. The most recent episode had a blood sugar of 534 and blood pH of 7.1. According to Dr. Patel's testimony, he was hours from death. This is not a difference in parenting philosophy. This is life-threatening medical neglect. She signed a paper. Emergency custody is granted to Margaret Chen for 6 months, with a full hearing scheduled at that time. Crystal Morrison is permitted supervised visitation only, contingent on completing a parenting course focused on medical compliance. Brandon Morrison will have unsupervised visitation contingent on attending therapy and demonstrating understanding of Tyler's medical needs. Crystal jumped up. This is discrimination. You can't punish me for my beliefs. I'm not punishing your beliefs. I'm protecting a child. Judge Barnes brought down her gavel. Court adjourned. Crystal's lawyer tried to say something, but she was already storming out. Brandon sat there looking lost. I caught his eye across the courtroom. He mouthed, "I'm sorry." I nodded and left. Tyler moved in with me that weekend. We turned the guest room into his room, painted it blue, hung up posters of planets and rockets. He loved space. He brought his clothes, his books, his bike, a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunk that Emily had given him when he was 3. The first night, I made dinner, and we sat at the kitchen table. "You're going to stay here for a while," I told him. "Is that okay?" "Yeah." He pushed pasta around his plate. "Are you mad at Dad?" "No. I'm mad at the situation. But your dad loves you. Sometimes love isn't enough if people don't know how to show it properly." He thought about that. "Crystal said you're trying to poison me with insulin." "She's wrong." I pulled out a book I'd bought, a kid-friendly guide to type 1 diabetes with pictures and simple explanations. "Let me show you what's really happening in your body." We spent an hour going through it. I explained how his pancreas used to make insulin but didn't anymore. How insulin was like a key that unlocked cells so sugar could get in and give him energy. Without it, the sugar just stayed in his blood and made him sick. It's not poison. It's medicine. Like how glasses help someone see better. Your body needs help, and that's okay. Does that mean I'm broken? No. It means you have a condition that needs management. Lots of people do. It doesn't make you less than anyone else. He tested his blood sugar after dinner, 98, perfect range, and gave himself insulin for the carbs he'd eaten. I supervised but let him do it. He needed to feel capable. That night, I heard him crying in his room. I knocked softly and went in. He was holding Mr. Trunk and his face was wet. "What's wrong, honey?" "I miss my mom. The real one." "I know." I sat on the edge of his bed. "She was wonderful." "Yeah." He wiped his face. "Crystal's not my mom." "No, she's not. You don't have to pretend she is. Do you think Mom would be mad at me for living here instead of with Dad? I think your mom would be grateful you're somewhere safe. I think she'd want you healthy and happy. That's all any parent should want." He hugged Mr. Trunk tighter. "Can I stay here forever?" "As long as you need to." Life fell into a rhythm. Tyler went to school, came home, did homework at the kitchen table while I made dinner. We tested his blood sugar 4 times a day, calculated carbs for every meal, adjusted insulin doses. His A1C, a measure of average blood sugar over 3 months, had been 11.2 when he came to live with me. Anything over 7 is considered poor control. Over 9 is dangerous. 3 months later, it was 7.4. His doctor was thrilled. Tyler gained 12 pounds, grew 2 inches. Color came back to his face. He laughed more. He brought friends home after school. I met Brandon for coffee once a month. He'd started therapy, stopped drinking, signed up for a diabetes management course. He'd also filed for divorce from Crystal. "I can't believe I let it get that bad," he said at one meeting. "Every time you or the school or the doctor said something was wrong, Crystal would convince me you were all overreacting, that you didn't understand her approach." "How did she convince you?" He looked down at his coffee. "She made me feel like I wasn't alone. After Emily died, everyone wanted me to just move on, be strong for Tyler. Crystal said I was allowed to be broken, that she'd fix me. But she didn't fix you." "No. She just gave me permission to ignore the hard stuff." We sat in silence. "You can't do that with Tyler," I said. "Kids need parents who show up even when it's hard." "I know, I'm trying." "Are you? Really? Because Tyler asks about you. He wants to see you more. And I want that too, but only if you're actually going to be there. Not physically there while mentally checked out." "I'll be there." He met my eyes. "I promise." I let him start coming to dinner once a week. Tyler was wary at first, testing boundaries, watching his dad carefully. But Brandon showed up consistently, asked questions about Tyler's day, learned to calculate carbs, practiced giving insulin injections on an orange, so he could help during visits. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Then Crystal went on Instagram. She'd built a following selling wellness products and natural health advice. 40,000 followers who believed every word she said. She posted Tyler's story, her version of it. My stepson was stolen by the system because I refused to pump him full of pharmaceuticals. I was trying to heal him naturally, and they called it neglect. This is what happens when you go against Big Pharma. The post went viral. 5,000 shares. 10,000 comments. Half supportive, half horrified. Someone found my address and posted it online. I started getting phone calls, messages, people calling me a child abuser, a Big Pharma shill, threatening to report me for poisoning Tyler. One woman showed up at my house with a casserole and pamphlets about natural healing. I politely told her to leave. The school had to increase security because protesters showed up with signs saying, "Free Tyler and stop medical tyranny." Tyler was mortified. Patricia filed a cease and desist order against Crystal. She ignored it, posted another video, this one crying about how the corrupt system was keeping her from her son, how she just wanted to love him and heal him. A news station picked up the story. They called me for comment. I declined. I wasn't going to turn Tyler's medical crisis into a media circus. But the damage was done. Tyler's friends' parents had questions. Some stopped letting their kids come over. At school, someone started a rumor that I was keeping Tyler prisoner. The school counselor had to intervene. "This is exactly what Crystal wanted," Patricia said. "To make you look like the bad guy. To control the narrative. What do? We focus on the truth. And we win the final custody hearing. That's less than a month away." The final hearing was on a Tuesday in March. Judge Barnes presiding again. The courtroom was fuller this time. Crystal had supporters in the gallery, people from her wellness community wearing t-shirts that said "Parent Rights Matter." I had Alice from next door, Tyler's teacher, his doctor. Tyler was 13 now, old enough to testify if needed. Patricia said we should keep him out of it if possible. The judge called me to the stand first. "Mrs. Chen, tell me about Tyler's health since he's been in your care." I pulled out the records, charts showing his blood sugar logs, his A1C dropping from 11.2 to 7.1 over 8 months. He's gained 23 pounds, grown 3 inches. He's seeing an endocrinologist monthly, a therapist twice a month. He's on the honor roll at school. He plays in the science club. He's thriving. And his diabetes management? He tests his blood sugar before meals and at bedtime. We count carbs together. He gives himself insulin with supervision. He knows the signs of low blood sugar and high blood sugar. He's learning to advocate for himself. Dr. Patel testified next, brought his hospital records from the 3 DKA episodes, explained how close he came to death. Brandon testified, admitted his failures, talked about the therapy and classes he'd taken. He asked for joint custody, supervised at first, building to more time. Judge Barnes asked him directly, "Do you understand now that insulin is not optional?" "Yes, Your Honor. I understand that my son has a medical condition that requires insulin to survive. I understand that refusing that treatment is not an alternative approach, it's neglect. And if you had custody again, and your ex-wife tried to influence you to stop his insulin, I wouldn't listen. She nearly killed him. I won't let that happen again." Then Crystal took the stand. She wore a conservative dress, hair pulled back, the picture of a concerned parent. She talked about how much she loved Tyler, how she'd tried her best to help him. "But you withheld insulin." Patricia stood for cross-examination. "Not withheld. I was trying to reduce his dependence on it by letting his blood sugar reach 500. I was monitoring him closely. He was hospitalized 3 times. Those doctors overreacted. One of them testified, "Your son was hours from death." They're trained to scare parents into compliance with pharmaceutical companies. Do you still believe insulin is poison? I believe there are alternatives that should be explored. Yes or no? Do you believe Tyler should be taking insulin? I believe his body could heal if given the right support. Your Honor. Patricia turned to the judge. Mrs. Morrison still refuses to acknowledge basic medical facts about type 1 diabetes. She still believes she knows better than doctors, than nurses, than medical science itself. She has shown no remorse, no understanding of the harm she caused. She should never have custody or unsupervised access to this child. Judge Barnes reviewed the files in front of her for a long moment. Then she looked at Crystal. Mrs. Morrison, I've read your social media posts. I've seen how you've chosen to handle this situation. Instead of self-reflection, you've chosen martyrdom. Instead of learning, you've chosen to double down on beliefs that nearly killed a child. She looked at me, then at Brandon, then back to Crystal. Full permanent custody is granted to Margaret Chen. Brandon Morrison will have unsupervised visitation, increasing to joint custody after 6 months of demonstrated compliance with Tyler's medical needs. Crystal Morrison is granted supervised visitation only, contingent on completing a court-mandated parenting course and a psychiatric evaluation. Crystal stood up. This is discrimination. Against what? Judge Barnes's voice was sharp. Against your right to endanger a child? That's not a right any parent has. Court is adjourned. She brought down the gavel. Crystal's supporters booed. Security had to escort them out. I sat very still, feeling the weight of it. Tyler was mine to protect now. Really mine. That was 2 years ago. Tyler's 15 now, taller than me, still thin but healthy thin. His A1C hovers around 7, sometimes lower. He manages his diabetes himself now. I just supervise. He wants to be an endocrinologist when he grows up, help other kids like him. Brandon has joint custody, every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. He's sober, stable, working as an accountant again. He and Tyler have rebuilt something real. Not perfect, but real. They go to basketball games, build model rockets, talk about Emily. Tyler keeps a picture of her on his nightstand. Crystal completed the parenting course and psych eval. The therapist diagnosed her with factitious disorder imposed on another, a condition where someone makes up or causes illness in someone under their care for attention. She attends therapy now. Hasn't posted about Tyler in 18 months. She sees him once a month, at the supervised visitation center. Tyler goes because the court says he has to, but he doesn't call her mom. She's just Crystal. Last week, Tyler came home from school excited. There's a kid in my PE class. Marcus. He just got diagnosed with type 1. He's really scared and doesn't understand what's happening. Can I talk to him? Of course. Maybe invite him over for dinner. We can show him it's manageable. Tyler pulled out his phone, already texting. You know what's weird? What? I used to think having diabetes made me broken. Like there was something wrong with me that needed to be fixed. He looked up. But now I think it just makes me someone who needs different tools. Like how some people need glasses or hearing aids. It's just part of who I am. When did you figure that out? When I moved in here. You never treated it like a problem I caused. You treated it like a condition I manage. And there's a difference. There is. He went back to texting Marcus. I started making dinner, testing my own blood sugar, because I'd developed type 2 inches my 60s, taking my own insulin. Tyler and I were a team in that way. At 72, I never expected to be raising a teenager. Never expected to be navigating custody battles and social media attacks, and learning how to talk to a 15-year-old boy about girls and grades and growth spurts. But here I am. And honestly, I wouldn't change it. Because Tyler's alive. He's healthy. He's happy. He knows he's loved. And sometimes, that's the whole point. Family isn't who you're related to. It's who shows up. Who stays. Who fights for you when you can't fight for yourself. So that's my story. What do you think? Do people like Crystal deserve second chances? Or are some beliefs too dangerous to forgive? Let me know in the comments. And please, if you know someone managing diabetes or any chronic condition, check on them. Ask if they need support. Sometimes that one question can save a life. Subscribe to Never Too Late if you want more stories about life's hardest battles and biggest victories. Because it's never too late to do the right thing.